Hello students, so there was some technical glitch because of which students were unable to hear the audio. So now I hope it is audible. So I welcome to all of you in this open session of PSIR optional subject. So as we have seen that most of these students, they are confused with respect to their optional subjects. Like some of them, they are thinking that we should go with that kind of optional subject which should be, the syllabus should be very short. Other students, they are thinking that we should take our optional which is related to our graduation background. So let me tell you one thing, that in UPSC examination the criteria of asking question is totally different. Okay, another important thing that we need to understand here is that the what is the basis, that on what basis you should choose your optional. So the first thing, you should actually see in which GS subject you are more comfortable. Okay, in which GS subject you are more comfortable, based on that you can choose your optional. But if you are unable to decide based on this, then you should go with that optional which overlaps with majorly GS paper, with almost all the GS paper. So based on that you can choose your optional. So PSIR is one of them. Now let me tell you that why do toppers like Tina Dabi, Shrishti Deshmukh, Junaid Ahmed, they chose PSIR? Is it just a trend, or is there a deeper thing or strategic reason that can decide your rank in UPSC examination? So let's decode the strategy. Okay, so we should understand what should be strategy of PSIR optional and why this is relevant for the people who are having even non-humanities background. Even engineers take PSIR, medical students take PSIR optional as a subject. So let's decode not just the strategy but the soul of PSIR. Let me tell you, PSIR is not just a subject. It is the DNA of the UPSC examination that we need to understand. So it is not just a subject, it is the DNA of this UPSC exam. Just think about, okay, now think about GS paper 2. GS paper 2, which is related to polity, constitution, governance and international relations, these subjects. So this GS paper 2, polity, IR, then you can take GS paper 1 in this modern history, then world history, and some aspects of post independence. These subjects, again these subjects are overlapping with your optional subject. Okay, all these subjects. Then essay paper, again philosophical essays, so many a times it has been seen that the essay quotations are directly from your optional subjects. Then ethics paper, again GS paper 4. Now as you can see the relevance here, GS paper 1, 2, then ethics paper, that is GS paper 4. So in PSIR, we are going to read about philosophical thinkers or political philosophers like Socrates, Plato. Socrates, who is also called as father of philosophy, father of ethics, he is also important from the perspective of your GS paper 4, that is ethics. Plato, father of political philosophy. Clear? So then comes GS paper 3. Now with respect to GS paper 3, there are some important things like international political economy in important institutions, international political economy, like Bretton Woods institutions, IMF, World Bank, GATT, then WTO game. All these things are related to your PSIR also. So this is the only optional subject which has huge overlap with all the GS paper. And not only this in mains examination, not only this in mains examination, for interview also this subject plays important role. So what runs like a thread through all of them, that is interview. So it is PSIR optional which binds all the GS paper together. So with this you are not studying an optional, you are building the intellectual toolkit for the entire examination. Okay, and next important thing which we need to understand from the perspective of PSIR, repetitive questions. That is very important. Repetitive questions. जी हाँ, repetitive nature of questions in PSIR. For example, if we see paper 1, है ना? So if we see paper 1, so when we see this PSIR, so first paper, for example, number of times the questions have been repeated, like the questions on political theory. Questions on political theory. Now, with respect to this political theory, questions like what is justice? Explain liberty. Okay. So, various segments. Justice, they have asked justice, liberty, you know. Then comparison, they ask comparison. You can compare Marx and Hegel. Compare Marx and Hegel. This comparison is also asked. So the questions are philosophically framed but predictable. Questions are predictable in PSIR paper, PSIR option. Second, paper 2. Let's take the example of paper 2 now. Now with respect to paper 2, for example, if you see, like here the question is related to IR theories and India's foreign policy, IFP, India's foreign policy. So the paper, if you see, the paper 1 is divided into two sections. This is related to section A, which talks about political theories. There is one more section in paper 1, that is section B. Now section B, if you see the questions of section B, which is related to Indian government and politics, Indian government and politics. Now in this section, many a times it has been seen that the question is on India's democracy, federalism, secularism, okay, all these things. So many a times the question has been repeated from various themes, like for example, so as you can see here, the questions most of the time was from federalism, secularism, democracy, etc. So these kind of questions have been asked in UPSC examination, especially mains, optional paper, PSIR. And with respect to foreign policy questions come up in various forms every year. So these questions comes up in various forms every year. Okay. Now, what are you going to learn here? You will learn to correlate your knowledge. You will learn how to apply theories with current affairs. So overall, if you see, the relevance of PSIR is not only limited to exam. It is beyond the examination. So political science specifically teaches you how to think and not what to think. Clear? So the relevance, if you see relevance of having PSIR optional. So it is, first of all, it is beyond the exam. Then it teaches you that how to think. You have to focus. The focus should be on how to think rather than what to think. Clear? Now, whether you are writing from the newspapers, debating or cracking interviews or crafting policies, PSIR makes you a better citizen and a sharper leader. So the relevance is not only limited to the examination. Clear? You can also enter into the public policy groups and various other criteria. Okay. So it helps you in understanding newspaper. This helps you in the domain of public policy. So these are some important relevance. Clear? So it is going to make you a better citizen as well as a sharper leader. So apart from this, there is also a massive support community of PSI. Massive support community, I must say. There is a massive support community. Now, massive support community in the sense, tons of topper notes, mentorship groups, coaching guidance, test series are available. But you have to choose only one, which gives you the holistic approach and each and everything. Okay, that is the relevance. So even if you are self-studying, you are not alone. Okay, you are not alone because various things are available. But the most important thing here is how to read each and everything in a concise way as per the demand of UPSC examination. Now, the question here is this optional for everyone? Is it for everyone? Is it for everyone? Now, let me tell you, if you hate abstract ideas and if you have a fear of writing analytical answers or just want diagram based scoring like geography or anthropology, then you might struggle. But if you love arguments, now try to understand. If you love arguments, if you love analysis, clear? If you love debates, if you love logical things, reading thinkers, questioning power, if you have this questioning power, so all these things matter. And if you have the understanding of the people and the states, then this is your subject. It is very interesting, believe me. So remember this thing, a good optional can be your biggest asset in your UPSC examination. And PSIR, it is not just an optional, it is a UPSC superpower. Clear? It is the UPSC PSIR optional. It is the UPSC superpower. Okay. So remember this thing. Now I am going to decode that why political science and international relations is one of the most powerful, popular and scoring optional subjects in the UPSC civil services examination. And this is not going to be dry pitch. I am going to take you through the heart of this subject and showing how PSIR connects with all the GS paper, essay, interviews, everything. And most importantly, your thinking as a future bureaucrat or a nation builder. Okay. That means this one subject has many returns. One subject has many returns. Okay. So PSIR is like that one investment that gives returns everywhere in UPSC examination. So PSIR topic, where it is going to help? It is going to help like Indian nationalism, constitution, everywhere as we have discussed. Okay. As you can see here. So PSIR topics are going to help you everywhere in GS paper. GS paper 2 with respect to international relations, polity and constitution. GS paper 3 with respect to internal security. Okay. Then international political economy. Then GS paper 1 with respect to modern history, Indian nationalism. Okay. Then important thinkers. Then apart from this, this subject is also something related to some of these scholars of socio-religious reform movements. Okay. Like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. So all these things are very important. And then think in GS paper 4, thinkers like Plato, Gandhi, Ambedkar, all these thinkers are going to help you even in your essay as well as ethics paper. So you study once, revise smartly and apply repeatedly. I always say one thing to all my students, study once, revise smartly and apply repeatedly. And this overlapping reduces your burden across the GS papers. And it is going to help you understand the issues more conceptually, like from caste and federalism to China's rise or India's strategic autonomy. So this subject is going to give you the holistic knowledge. Okay, you are going to understand everything from caste and federalism to the rise of China. To the rise of China. So, or India's strategic autonomy. So that is going to help. So this optional has highly relevance in GS as well as current affairs. Highly relevance. PSIR importance if we see. So first thing is overlapping. With all GS papers. All GS papers. Second important thing is relevance in GS as well as current affairs. That is also very important. Current affairs. Okay. Like PSIR makes your newspaper reading sharper, your opinion stronger as well as your GS answer analytical in nature. For example, I always believe in analogy as well as example. So while reading about center state disputes, PSIR will give you the view of important scholars like K.C. Veer who has given the idea of Kasi federalism, है ना? So with respect to, for example, center state dispute. So PSIR is going to give the view of KZ Veere and his idea of Kasi federalism. That is also very important. For example, another example on Ukraine or China, है ना? Another example you can give, like for example on Ukraine or China Taiwan issue. This issue. So with this also, remember this thing, you don't just read facts, you analyze using different theories. Like you are going to use the theory liberalism, you are going to use the theory realism. So holistic understanding will be developed. Or why India is not interfering, then you will automatically connect it with India's non-alignment legacy, है ना? India's non-alignment legacy. So this is very important. So this makes your GS paper 2 and 3 answers richer, as well as interview responses more statesman-like. So with this optional paper, your interview answers more statesman-like. Okay, that is very important. So here with this optional subject, you think like a leader. First of all, PSIR is not a rote, it is reflective in nature. Okay, so here basically you started thinking like a leader. So this subject is not a rote, this is reflective in nature, and because it asks what is justice, why does inequality persist despite the democracy, these kind of analytical questions, and what kind of world order should India push for. So by engaging with the thinkers from Plato to John Rawls, Gandhi to Ambedkar, you developed a structured way to think, argue and lead. Okay, so this is going to create, PSIR is going to create the critical thinking. Is going to create critical thinking. Like we are going to engage with thinkers like from Plato to Rawls. Okay, from Plato to Rawls. Then if you see Indian thinkers, so Indian thinkers like from Gandhi to Ambedkar. So this is going to develop a structured way of thinking, argue and lead. So PSIR actually trains you not to just clear the UPSC exam, but to become a better civil servant. Then this is going to help you in essay as well as interview. So this optional subject is also considered as essay and interviewer booster. So PSIR, it is considered as essay and interviewer booster. Okay, now with respect to essay, you can use PSIR content to write good essays. Like many a times UPSC has asked political essays, like, so they ask essays like India India's democracy at crossroads. That's it. So with PSIR, you are going to get so much of content. Then you are going to get ethical essays also from PSIR only, like justice delayed is justice denied. Justice delayed is justice denied. So these kind of questions you can easily write with the PSIR content. So for justice, you can quote John Rawls. You can quote John Rawls, who is also important in your ethics paper. Okay. And then you can mention Gandhi on means and ends also with respect to justice. Then you can give example of Ambedkar on social democracy. Ambedkar on social democracy. So you can quote all these things. So this optional is going to give you the real content with depth. So in interview, actually, when they ask about the governance, foreign policy, democracy, you already have an analytical framework in your mind because of your optional. So you appeared informed, mature and balanced, exactly what UPSC want. And then another important thing, if you go through the past toppers, if you see past toppers, and if you analyze the trend, so then you will realize that it is not a fluke. PSIR has consistently been a top performing optional. Clear? Like for example, if we see Apala Mishra, All India rank 9, 2021, AIR 9, 2021, Apala Mishra. So various toppers are there. Then Ishita Kishore, All India rank 1, 2022, PSIR optional. So there are huge number of aspirants, huge number of students, as well as large number of toppers who have scored in top 100. Okay. So PSIR optional is not just about the popularity, it is about the results. This optional always produce results. If you see the success rate, so consistently among top 5 in UPSC optional success rate data is there. Why? Because the syllabus of PSIR is manageable as well as logical structure. So if you see the syllabus of PSIR, it is actually manageable. Okay, and a structural way of reading, and a logical structure should be there. Logical structure should be there. So when we see PSIR syllabus, so PSIR syllabus is logical structure as well as interlinked. Okay, that is why it is divided into different ways. Like for example, just an example, so PSIR optional, if we see, so it is divided into two papers, that is paper 1, 2 sections, section A, section B. Then paper 2, again 2 sections, section A and section B. Now first thing, paper 1 section A. It is all related to political theory and Western political thought. It is all related to political theory, then Western political thought, then Indian political thought. Indian political thought. These are some important topics. Section B is completely related to Indian politics. It is completely related to Indian politics. Then same case here, section A of paper 2, it is related to IR, IR theories as well as global issues. And when we see section B, it is something which is related to India's foreign policy. India's foreign policy. This section is completely related to your GS paper 2 international relations. So, the syllabus does not demand memorizing facts or the dates like the history or technical mastery like maths or engineering. So, with smart notes and conceptual clarity, PSIR is manageable within 4 to 5 months of focused preparation. Okay. Now, is it relevant for humanities as well as non-humanities? Yes. PSIR is something, it is important for both humanities and non-humanities. Okay, non-humanities. It is important for both. Why? Because many ask, can I take a PSIR if I am from the science background, commerce, engineering background? Absolutely. Now, why I am saying this? Because let me tell you that 60% of toppers, remember this data, 60% of toppers come from non-political science background. 60% of toppers. Why? Because its concept are logical as well as philosophical, and once you get the idea, they stick. And unlike many optional, you can start from zero and still score 250, 290 plus, 300 plus with the right strategy. समझ में आ रहा है? You can easily score 290 plus, 300 plus with the right strategy. Again, I am telling, with the right strategy. Clear? So, PSIR optional is dynamic also as well as static, which is a perfect mix. So, PSIR is dynamic as well as static also. And it is the perfect mix. It is the perfect mix. Because PSIR has both static theories. It has both static theories like John Locke's theory, Hobbes' theory, Rawls' theory, etc. So it has both theories. Then dynamic portion, current. You can correlate it with current affairs or current events, है ना? Like Quad, Israel, Hamas, China's Belt Road Initiative, all these things. So this mix actually, it makes your preparation engaging. At the same time, it is going to help you in connecting the theory to reality. That is, applicability is also there. So when you write answer, they are not dry. They are alive and powerful. Okay. Then PSIR also develop a philosophical balanced mind. So PSIR optional, it develop a philosophical and balanced mind. Philosophical and balanced mind. See, at the heart of PSIR is this debate, dialogue, and discernment. Three things are very important. In PSIR, three D's are very important. Now, what are those three D's? Debate, dialogue, and discernment. Three things are very important. So here you learn to analyze deeply, not just react. You see multiple sides of an issue, a crucial skill for any civil servant. Okay, this is the crucial skill for all the civil servants. Like, for example, be it the Kashmir issue, caste issue, China issue, or climate change issue, you don't fall into the extremes. You explain, justify, and balance. Three things. Because of this, PSIR aspirant explains, justify their views. Okay, and then comes, because of this comes balanced approach in your answer. This is very important. So overall, I can say that why PSIR is the smartest choice. So just try to understand. First thing, it develops huge overlap with GS papers, GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 and essay paper. Is it scoring? Yes, it is scoring. It is concept based, not memory heavy. Third, it is dynamic plus static also, which makes your preparation very interesting. For this optional, you need not to have any background. Background is not required. This is logical for all, and this is the only optional which starts from zero. Okay, which starts from zero. That is why UPSC fit matches the skills UPSC seeks. So if you are passionate about governance, ethics, justice, diplomacy, or political ideas, so PSIR is not just a subject, it is the journey of our growth. Okay, so the best optional is not the easiest one. It is the one that builds you in the kind of a person UPSC wants to select. So choose PSIR optional if you want a scoring and analytical subject, to shine in GS paper, essay as well as interview, to think critically and serve meaningfully. So PSIR, let me tell you, PSIR does not just help you to clear UPSC examination. If you prepare, this optional prepares you to change the nation. Okay, that is the relevance. So what is the objective of all these things? It is going to help UPSC beginners, advanced stage people, everyone. It will help you to understand how political science as a discipline got evolved. It starts from there. That is why I have said now, it starts from zero. And why it matters in UPSC journey, and how it connects the ancient thought to modern challenges. So let me tell you, the history of political science is the history of how human beings dream about power and then they try to live with it. So let's take a journey from the caves to the constitution. You can correlate with any theme. Like history starts from the human evolution when we read history. Stone Age, caves were very important. So PSIR, if you see, it has evolved from caves to today constitutions. This is the journey. This is how PSIR evolved. That means this has the origin in ancient philosophy. So PSIR has origin in ancient philosophy. Ancient philosophy. Okay, ancient philosophy. When we say philosophy, philosophy is something which is normative in nature, based on norms, based on values. So we can say PSIR was started with normative. It has the normative beginning. PSIR has normative beginning. So why I am saying this? Let's take the example of Plato and Aristotle. है ना? Very important personalities. Plato and Aristotle. Now Plato and Aristotle. Plato, politics was about ethics. For him, politics was about ethics. Okay. Politics was about ethics. The question was not how to win elections, but the question was how should humans live together. That you are going to understand from the philosophy of Plato. Here it is not important how to win the election. No. How should humans live together, which is something based on norms, values. That is why Plato talked about philosopher king. He talked about philosopher king. Okay, he talked about philosopher king. But on the other hand, Aristotle. So Plato is considered as the father of political philosophy. Father of political philosophy. Aristotle, on the other hand, he is called as father of political science. Father of political science. Now, Aristotle was the one who talked about zoon politikon. This is very important. We need to understand this term, zoon politikon. As you can see here, zoon politikon. What does it mean? It means political animal. It means political animal. That means this marked the birth of political science. Okay. So basically these were normative questions. These were normative questions. And without justice, political science cannot be completed. Okay. These are normative questions. For example, what is justice? Normative. What is the good life? All these kinds of questions. So political philosophy, if you see, so here the focus will be on normative questions. This is the favorite questions of UPSC. Like for example, what is justice? What is good life? Okay, all these things are very important. Now, when we see today the nature of political science, so we discuss different things. Like today's debates are on welfare state, justice, democracy. Now all these things, like for example, when we talk about, when we say today's debate or present debate, which are based on justice, democracy, then welfare state. So when we see these topics, in today newspaper, so the thing is, these topics also have seeds or foundation in this ancient period only. Have seeds in ancient philosophies. So this is the relevance of PSIR. You are going to understand each and everything from the basics. So why political science matters in UPSC? So let me tell you, politics is too important to be left only to the politicians. ये मैंने नहीं कहा है, ये किसने कहा है? Charles de Gaulle. Clear? That politics is too important to be left only to politicians. So whether you want to understand the Indian Constitution, international relation, or just why democracy thrives or fails, political science is the subject that helps you to see the hidden logic behind the power and governance. So political science is not just a theory, it is current affair, it is ethics, it is governance, it is citizenship. And for UPSC examination, political science is like a spine. Okay, for UPSC examination, PSIR is like the spine. Spine for what? Spine for all GS papers. Okay, spine for all the GS papers. You will feel its influence in GS paper 2, 1, 4, 3, essay, even in the interview. So that is why this subject is important. So this is how the political science was evolved in ancient times. Okay. Now, if we see the evolution of political science, if we see the evolution, I'm just going to give you the overview. Evolution of political science. If we see this, so political science was evolved in different phases. Now, first example I would like to tell you. Now, the first phase is the classical phase. Okay. First phase in the evolution of political science is called as classical phase. Now, this classical phase, which was started from 5th century BC to 3rd century BC, which was started from 5th century BC to 3rd century BC. Clear? Now, here you will see, here we are going to see the important scholars, not only from the perspective of West, but also from India. Plato, Aristotle, Kottapalya from India. So, here important scholars like Plato, Kottapalya, Aristotle. Clear? These are some important scholars. Now here, what is the nature of political science? Now in this phase, okay, what is the nature? So here, what is the nature of political science that we need to understand? Okay, so now try to understand that what is the nature of political science. It was normative, philosophical, as well as ethical. That means politics was merged with ethics at that time. So normative, philosophical, and ethical. Nature, normative, philosophical and ethical. This is the nature. So during this period, what is the central question? What is the best form of government? So what is the central question of this period? So let's try to understand. Okay. So central question. So the central question was, what is the best form of government? This was the central question of this period. So when you read about Plato, Plato is considered as idealist. Plato is considered as idealist. So Plato's book Republic was on idealism. Okay. Plato's book Republic, if you see. Okay. So Plato's book was Republic and it was on idealism. On the other hand, if you see Aristotle, who is considered as father of political science, his classification was based on empiricism, scientific classification, empiricism and comparisons of constitution. This is the difference between Plato as well as his disciple Aristotle. Clear? On the other hand, if you see Kautilya's philosophy, it is based on real politics. It is based on real politics as well as statecraft. Okay. Statecraft. This was there during this period. So what you need to understand from this phase, that philosophy is not abstract. It shapes even today's debates on justice, democracy and morality. This was the classical phase in PSIR, as you can see here in the evolution of PSIR. Okay. Now second phase if we see is called as medieval. With respect to your syllabus, there was no development on political thought in medieval times, but still there are some important thinkers. When we talk about medieval political thought, here we are going to understand the faith versus reason. Okay, that means religion was dominating. So let me tell you the medieval political thought. So here we are going to understand the debate between faith versus reason. Okay, faith versus reason. Now here when we talk about, though it is not related to your syllabus, but still I would like to tell you, because during this period church was dominant in Europe. So some of these scholars like Saint Augustine and Aquinas, two important scholars are there. Saint Augustine and Aquinas, these two important personalities, if you see, they actually brought theology, religion into the politics. That is God's will versus king's rule. इन्होंने क्या किया? They brought theology into politics. That is God's will versus king's rule. That debate was started. Okay. So here it seems like power was divine and authority was flowed from religion. So this is when political philosophy became theological. So in medieval times, political philosophy became theological in nature. Just think today's debate on theocracy, blasphemy laws or secularism. Clear? So this medieval phase actually starts from 4th century AD to 15th century. कब से शुरू होता है? It was started from 4th century AD to 15th century AD. This is the phase of politics. So during this period, सेंट ऑगस्टीन, सेंट थॉमस एक्विनस, एक बहुत ही फेमस इस्लामिक स्कॉलर भी हैं इब्न खल्दून, अल फराबी. Though these things are not there in your syllabus, but still, I always say to my students, if you want to read good scholars, read about Al Farabi, Ibn Khaldun. So during medieval period, PSIR, or you can say political science, was theological moralistic. Their focus was on divine authority versus human reason. So here political thought became servant to religion. Okay. That is why Al-Farabi is important. So from Islam, there is one scholar called as Al-Farabi. Why Al-Farabi is important? He merged Plato with Islamic thought. Ibn Khaldun lays the groundwork for political sociology. So these things we will be discussing, and this is very interesting when you come to know all these things. Okay, so the most important thing in this phase, you need to understand how religion and politics became intertwined, and this is relevant to secularism today, communalism today, as well as modern identity politics. Clear? Then comes third phase in political science, that is Renaissance and modern state formation. Third phase. So these two phases, as you can see here, we have discussed these two important phases. Okay, these two important phases. Now third phase is related to Renaissance and modern state formation. Now let's talk about third phase, है ना? Third phase, which is related to Renaissance and modern state formation. Okay, modern state formation. Here, if you see the time period, 15th to 17th century. So here important scholars, Machiavelli, Hobbes, Bodin, all these scholars. So here important scholars, Machiavelli, Bodin, Hobbes, all these are important scholars. Okay, and Machiavelli has written the most important book called as Prince. Very important book he has written, The Prince. Now why this book is important, The Prince? It was a first break from idealism, that politics is not idealism, politics is not religion. Machiavelli said power is power. He said power is power. Power is not ethics. So in this period, rise of absolutism, centralized states and sovereignty. So during this period, you are going to see the rise of absolutism. Okay, rise of sovereignty, etc. These things were there. So basically, the most important book which was written by Hobbes, because Hobbes talks about absolute state, so everything we will be discussing in the classes. Okay, so Hobbes has written a book called as Leviathan. That is, this book is based on social contract and fear is the basis of order. So from here you will get the idea, and that idea is birth of modern state idea. Birth of modern state. That is relevant. So when you see the relevance in UPSC examination, many state theories, है ना, and modern state theories, real politics in IR, social contract, which is the foundation of Indian Constitution, everything is there. Okay. So this is something which is going to build the idea of modern state that is relevant for your examination. Okay. Which is something is related to, you can say, freedom, democracy, consent, everything. And then comes liberal tradition in 17th century when John Locke, Rousseau, Montesquieu, J.S. Mill, these kind of scholars were there. You know, who has given the idea of right to property, limited government. Then Rousseau has given the concept of direct democracy, general will. Montesquieu talked about the separation of power. J.S. Mill talked about liberty. So this era, 17th century era, laid the foundation of modern democracies and constitutionalism. All these things are important for your examination, not only from the perspective of PSIR, but also from the perspective of GS paper. Getting my point? That is why the nature of PSIR has been changed after the Second World War. And the center was shifted to United States of America. Before Second World War, the center of political science was Europe. After Second World War, the center was shifted to United States of America. Now my question here is, why this evolution matters? The most important question, why this evolution matters? So political science is not just a subject, it is a lens to decode the world. Okay, you need to understand, it is nothing but PSIR is a lens to decode the world. Okay, so from Chanakya to Constitution, from Socrates to Supreme Court, PSIR makes UPSC preparation rich, relevant and rooted in ideas. Okay, why? Because it helps you to connect static with dynamic, GS with optional and ethics with governance. So the most important thing for the beginners, just read who was Socrates. ये आज आप करिएगा, who was Socrates, read about him. Okay, read about him. Who was Socrates, who laid the foundation of ethics, who is also called as father of ethics, father of philosophy. Okay, so just read about Socrates today. Clear? And then gradually I'll be telling you the basics things. So for the beginners, I would like to tell that you can start with reading class 11th NCERT political theory. That is going to give you the base. Okay, though we are going to start from the zero in our classes. Okay, then you will be able to answer that what kind of government do I think is ideal? If it is ideal, then why? Clear? So these things, these questions will be there in your mind. So overall, why this journey matters? See, political science is not just the study of government, it is the study of power, it is the study of justice, resistance, dreams, as well as the structures that define the human condition. So for UPSC aspirant, PSIR gives you more than marks. It gives you a lens to see your country. It gives you the strength to argue with reason, not anger. And above all, if you see, it gives you the intellectual independence. Okay. So when you read Plato or Ambedkar, so you are not reading just for a paper. You are learning how to rule your mind before you serve your country. Okay. So this is all for today. And if this lecture, this session sparked your curiosity, then share it with your friends who are still confused about their optional subject. And remember, the real preparation starts not in the books but in your questions. So stay curious, stay political. Jai Hind. Thank you so much. And one more thing, PSIR admissions are open now at Legacy IAS Academy. So you can call on the given number on your screen and enroll yourself. Thank you so much.